So I purchased a rub-on furniture transfer, and I thought maybe we could do this together. Because although I haven't done one before, I do have some experience with autographics installation. So the concept may be similar, but always review the instructions. What they mentioned to have is this wooden squeegee, and they don't specifically say non-sticky tape, but I'm sure it's a painter's tape is what you're seeing in the instructions. I went ahead and got scissors. I got a little strip knife, not my professional one, but it works. And will possibly be doing some other things to sort of personalize this old cabinet that we have because I needed storage. Here is the transfer. It came in 3 pieces. I've already cut out some of the pieces I don't need because the design is truly rectangle and it looked really great on the cabinet that they showed. I think it was on Pinterest. So I'm personalizing it my own way. Now the next thing we're going to do is place the pieces and see how they work. So we'll be right back. So I'm starting with the bottom third, and if you will notice, there are lines that they've got in different areas there, and I'm sure that's so everything lines up the way you want. And I measured it from side to side, about 4.5 on either side, 27 1/4 inch to the top, and that measured out on both sides. I'm only giving you those dimensions because they were even, and I know that's what a lot of you will be worried about, and I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like it to look good. So I've used the tape to just lightly put it in the area I want, and I'm going to use a hinge technique. Since I've never done an instructional video, bear with me. If this first one doesn't work that great and I'm in the way too much, I'll see if my husband won't be kind enough to come help. So we're going to start here. I'm going to take this off. And what actually will help is I see how it's wanting to give a little bit. When I measured it, I put this perforated line just inside this here. So that's what I'm after. So what I do, and again, everybody has their own technique. You might want to just use the instruction. They say start from the top, okay? I'm gonna move this out of the way. I'm going to look again at, there we go. We're all learning. Okay. I'm looking for this line up right here. Okay. Now, I'm going to tack. That's what I've always learned to do. Just lightly tack it. Also, you don't want to touch back in here. It even mentions that in the instructions, because it may tack down on your hand and not what you're working on. So I've always learned work from the center out and up or down. So I'm going to do that. Generally, if you overlap, just, at least 50% or not. Well, I wouldn't go more than a 50% overlap because you want really good adhesion. Okay. Okay. It looks like so far so good. Now let's just unhinge the other side. Gently pull that off. I'm trying not to touch the transfer underneath it. They also call this release paper. I just call it the backing. I think it's much more straightforward because sometimes I've heard people call the release the top or the pre-mask, at least in the vinyl world, I'll put it that way. So I'm going to start here, bring this right in here, and I'm just going to sort of touch that right there. Okay, work it out. And you notice I've got this side up. Don't want it flopping down, hitting in the wrong spot. Okay, now, as I work, I'm going to try to go back over because this door sets out a little more than this one. So I'm going to go in and make sure I don't have air bubbles and such right there. It's making a little bit of a racket. Hopefully it won't be too bad on the video. It mentioned about not putting this on fresh paint. I do understand that because I believe a lot of people that will be upcycling a piece of furniture have went through all this trouble putting a beautiful finish on a piece of furniture, and then if this doesn't adhere or adheres in the wrong place or pulls up fresh paint after all that hard work, I'm sure it would be so disappointing. Start in this corner. Let's just watch and make sure. See, this little piece right here is not wanting to stay. So let's give it a little rub. Let's try it again. Usually a 45-degree angle works pretty good. Okay. Now we're going to do this right here. I know my head is probably in the way. I'm hoping I'm giving you a view that you can understand and follow. I'll try to work myself out of this shot. Now, right there, that is wanting to stay up, and I understand that because of this gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this here, and I'm going to start on this corner. Okay, let's do the same technique. Let's do this 45-degree angle and just sort of keep your eye for pieces that might be popping back up. Sometimes it can happen before you know it. See my little flower right there is wanting to, it's wanting to rip apart. That's going to be actually sliced anyways, but you don't want it tearing away in the wrong spot. Let me put it that way. It did a little bit right there, but I can tell you this is very, very soft. The material is very soft, so you have to be very gentle with it. Okay, let's give it a little stop right there. So I've taped up the next piece, and I actually cut the margin off the bottom so that I could see more clearly where it connects. Now, it's not laying perfectly matched if I stretch it out. Part of that is probably because of that gap. So something you just have to learn to do is see what the eye sees. That's the most important thing. Math is not going to matter on either side anymore because you've got your starting piece. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I pull this like this, this will probably go further out here. I need this to match up with this. A lot of times what you can do is get what you need, okay, like so, and it should land right here. So you want that to match up. You can use one of these pencils. Some people call them China markers. Some people call them grease pencils. You can make yourself a little mark right there because that's going to rub off afterwards. And you can mark it here. In fact, you can mark it as many times as it makes you comfortable. And we will probably work this way in. I sort of hate that my little bee got dissected because he's so cute, my dad's a beekeeper. But the most important thing is that this matches up, because the first thing the eye is going to notice is if there's a gap. It's not going to say, oh, I think that was 4 inches and 1/4. I think it's off a 64th of an inch. No, they're not going to do that. That's what you're after. So I'm going to stop this here. And also let you know that the reason I start from the bottom up is because I had this to contend with. I didn't want all the pieces in the kit to use. And so I'm just going to play it by ear. And I also have a quote up at the top that I want to put. So I've got to just do it a little bit at a time, see what I like. So we'll be back momentarily. Now we have this top piece placed, and I've got it tagged with 2 pieces of tape, but I also went ahead and put those little marks right here because this really can be put on in one piece. It's just not too large. I'm going to go ahead, take off the yellow tape. I'm going to gently take the backing off. I will tell you from the centerpiece that I just did, this material is incredibly, incredibly soft. If a piece pulls up, it will probably want to bunch up. And it's sort of done for. I don't want to discourage you. You can do it. Just giving you a little heads up. Trying not to touch any of that lettering. Now what I want to do here is I want to line those little points up that I had right there. And I'm going to go ahead and tack this one. And that way I can see if this one's matching. Yes, it is. So at this point, I can go ahead and take my wooden squeegee. I'm going to start in the middle of this side, go down, and come back up, down, come back up, and you'll sort of get the hang of it. And yes, there's all sorts of techniques. We're doing it Reeves way today. Okay, now we've got this end and this end. Something else I was going to mention to you, that technique of taking off the layer that's closest to you. When I did vinyl, we always referred to it as pre-mask. But this clear piece that's on the top, when you take it off, like I said, it's pretty delicate material. So just be aware of that, especially if you're working on a complete flat surface. You're probably really good, but like with this right here, this doesn't have anything to adhere to, so it wants to pull. And the other thing is if something is not down really tight, it's going to pull up with it. So what I found is when you start to pull this back, let me lay this down. Truly take your hands and press back on this tight. It sort of discourages the material from wanting to tear if it's not adhered. Like right there, that ace not truly adhered to. Okay, there we go. And just keep an eye on it. But yeah, I found if you do this really crisp pullback, it tends to hang on to your cabinet or whatever you're working on better. So this technique seems to work the best. Or it did for me, I'll put it that way. Actually, see, that one wanted to come up. Now, just like the first one I showed, this little crevice here is going to be a little bit of an issue. No big deal, but I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Keep that from pulling and tugging unnecessarily. Part of that C is hanging right there. So we'll work with it. We'll keep an eye on it. So now I'm going to come over to this side. I'm going to start on it. I'm going to do that real crisp pull back. If I notice anything is hanging, I'll rub it back in. Don't get in a hurry. There's no point right there. See that tore. Fortunately, the design of this, you're never going to notice that because it's already got breaks in the lettering. Looks very antique, so it's okay. Now what I will do with these pieces right here, I'll press lightly, then I'll go back with my stripe knife, and I'll lay my stripe knife, like this right here can just turn in there. Actually, this A can do the same thing. This B, I'll lean my knife right up against the edge of this. Make sure it's a good sharp knife. And the C, honestly, I can cut that off, or I can probably tuck it in. And then, when we get a final design going, we'll show you the rest of it. I'll put that in a different video. I hope you enjoyed this and was able to learn a little something from my experience.